2 years ago this week, we had a conversation about so-called clean your plate parenting, which is the idea that everything that is on the kid's plate must be eaten before they can leave the table or before they can have dessert or whatever. And we talked about a study which actually pointed out in the Journal of Pediatrics that this method of parenting does cause obesity, and that we have such a childhood obesity problem in the United States that it might make more sense to make sure we never give kids portions initially that are too big, because then when they say, I'm full, and you say, hey, you've got to clean that plate, whatever the reasoning is that you give, this is actually causing obesity. And since then, Lewis, we have seen this continue. This hasn't been resolved. The entire clean your plate attitude in polls and surveys of parents that have been done over the last couple of years show that a significant percentage of parents are still into this idea of my kid must eat everything that is on their plate. Yeah, sometimes, like, I get it. You know, my sister, I remember when she was 5, she would say she was full because she didn't want to eat the specific thing that was on the plate. But then all of a sudden, dessert, oh, there's chocolate, there's ice cream, there's whatever. Yeah, no, I'm plenty hungry for that. So I totally get that it can be a manipulation used by kids. But a lot of times when kids say they don't want to eat anymore, it's because their body is sending them a sign that they've had enough to eat, and you're sort of encouraging overeating and habits that lead to obesity, and you're also instilling them very, very early on. So I think the whole clean your plate thing is a real big problem.
Yeah, I think it probably doesn't make much sense. There are plenty of ways you can, I think, not being a father, Dave, I think still I'd like to think that there are probably ways to get your child to eat the healthy food you put in front of them.
Right.
Maybe there is no dessert. Maybe they just don't even have access to anything else that they might wait for.
Lewis, clearly not a parent, because he doesn't know the chaos that can happen when you put down those guidelines and say, that's it. There's no desserts, period. Because
if there's none of that food in the house, how are they going to get to it?
Fair enough. Yeah. But it is kind of hard to keep your kid completely isolated from the realities of foods that exist. If they ever leave the house alone, as soon as they start going to preschool or wherever, they're going to figure out that there's other stuff other than broccoli and quinoa around, aren't they?
They certainly will. Yes. But when they're very young and they're at home, I think this is pretty easy to control. Now, I was definitely a member of the Clean Plate Club.
You were told by your parents you've got to finish what's on your plate.
No, it wasn't mandated, but I took pride in cleaning my plate.
But how did it even become a thing where how did your paradigm get created where you thought that was something to take pride in, eating all the food?
I think this is a normal thing. Like, oh, you're a big boy. You finished all your food. That's great. And like, yeah, I am a big boy. Look what I finished all my food. I can eat a lot. I'm big and strong, and that's how I do things.
The biggest news from the David Pakman show, arguably in years, Louis Motamedi is a big boy. And I think that will come not as a surprise to much of our audience who is aware of all of your cooking exploits and the entire thing.
Yeah, of course, I'm talking about being a member of the Clean Plate Club when I was 6. But sure, I guess I'm still a big boy.
If you had a kid, would you enforce the Clean Plate Club? And if so, would you do it with smaller portions to ensure you're never encouraging overeating?
The kid would even have to eat the plate. That's my rule.
All right. Not going to get a straight answer from Louis on this one. I don't have a problem with sort of the idea that, hey, listen, the food is meant to be eaten. It's not meant to be played with. Dinner time is for eating. It's not for whatever it is, right? But I would be very, very conscious of what is a reasonable portion. And I would be very aware that this is, you don't want to establish habits that are going to further the childhood obesity problem. That's my sense of it, speaking as a non-parent, of course.
I agree. And if your child starts gaining a lot of weight, reduce the portions. You can still tell them they need to finish all their food. You don't need to put as much food on the plate.
All right. Wise words from Louis Motamedi, who we figured out today is a big, big boy. We will take a break. Fantastic classic interview coming up next.